All right. Welcome, everybody, to the Foundational Infrastructure Working Group meeting for May the 2nd, 2024. Let's start with PRs. See where we got to over the last week.
So we
This
have
one.
approvers, but still not much. So this was about reverting the SSL read fix we had to introduce because of some Asia issues, which we verified now do not exist anymore.
Right. Yeah. Makes sense. Fingers crossed, everybody, that the issues don't show back up.
Yeah. Otherwise, we revert the revert.
Right. Yeah, it's easy. It's the Azure dance.
Yeah.
Uh, this was stemmed from another issue about the Bosch CLI autocomplete code in Bash, which probably is fine. So resolve conflicts. I'll just ask him for a rebase, or I'll do it afterwards. I'll just ask him for a rebase. Uh, Still waiting for some stuff from Benjamin. All those VirtualBox people are waiting for you, Benjamin, which is mostly just you. They get some usage. Same
It's fine
there.
for me. Yeah.
No worries on those. And this was the thing that spawned the other PR that we just looked at about the Bosch CLI completion code. So I haven't looked at either of them, but I thought the other one would resolve it, and then Aram said he'll adjust his once that one's done. So I don't know. Things will happen. Then waiting on reviews still. Yeah, that's a lot of people who haven't looked at it. Long was adding support for EFI based stem cells, which allow attaching
Yeah,
allows it.
there's
Go ahead.
yeah, there are still, but he already asked you, right? So like we need some Bosch agent stuff.
Oh, is that what he's?
Well, that was also because we now use, well, it's all in general because this is basically only for Noble, right?
Is it?
Or is it
Oh,
for main? Oh no, it's for
I
everything.
yeah, I think it's for everything. Although Long did ask me to do some agent stuff, but I thought it was just for Noble. But maybe
No,
it's
yeah, that is for Noble, but I thought this was also Noble specific.
yeah. I think this. Oh, it is for Noble. Well, it's for EFI, so the agent needs changes for EFI, but we're not going to build Jammy with EFI support, I don't think.
Yeah, so it will be only for, okay. So yeah, then the assumption is only for Noble.
Yeah. All right. And this is the
Yeah, it's
that recent?
mine.
No.
Still mine.
Bubble stuff. New PRs. Chris trying to remove what is this? Bubble. Probably some LastPass things that don't work anymore and aren't needed for the creds.
Yeah, we don't use this for Bubble
One,
is not hosted. Bubble is hosted on the open in the foundation now, so
yeah.
makes
All right.
sense.
I'm just gonna merge this. I know for a while there, for many years, there was some shared LastPass buckets and things, and I believe under Broadcom, LastPass is going away, so definitely there's no more left for us. Accelerators. I don't even know what those are. I guess they're
That's for the
GPUs.
GPU stuff.
Why didn't they call them GPUs?
Maybe you can have multiple accelerators also for AI or for whatever.
Yeah. I'm gonna assume Long didn't hallucinate this via some of his AI work, and
Probably not, no.
assume that it is sane. I like how my email address is just totally random.
I think you can set a default.
I think I have a default.
Oh.
Back to client package. Oh, this one. Oh, interesting.
It's the S3 thing. It's
That other one already get
SAP.
merged?
Isn't SAP working on that?
Yeah. What was this? 43 minutes ago. Let's look at this. Well,
It's a bit overlapping, or
Yeah, I think there was an issue with that.
Oh yeah, I was speaking about that. I was muted probably. So yeah, I mean, we also fixed a bug, and then we also were working on some unit tests and integration tests, which we felt like were good to have.
but
And we also
those
take care
two,
of.
those
Sorry?
two PRs are different.
yeah. I
Mhm.
mean, this one's fixing the test probably because it seems like the pipeline broke. And then Aram's is, what is Aram up to? Expose an interface. I'm guessing that's hide. No. Hide SE compatible and OpenStack Swift sign implementations behind this. Make other structs private. So it's just a structural, no features work, but just pulling out an interface probably to make it a little bit cleaner
I
would be my guess.
hope there'll be no
Will that
conflict.
break the other stuff?
Yeah, I'm sure there's definitely
Not
conflicts here. So
sure.
it's whichever one gets merged first wins. Uh Client. Yeah, that's totally different.
Would it
Not
make
gonna be able to evaluate that right here, but
would it make sense to first accept the one from Ansh and then
yeah,
see?
since it's broken, I'll comment the PR here over to here. Um, what? That didn't copy at all. All right. We'll add some reviewers to each though. That didn't work. Almost worked. Which I guess the fact that I added it after means it didn't do anything. Oh, this one's already gotten approval. Yeah. let's just merge this one then, since it's fixing something, adding test, you already got one review. Yep, that's we've hit at least 3 of the 4. All right, this one's now pending reviews and probably almost certainly bad at this point. Yes.
Yeah.
Makes sense. Hopefully that's not too big of a change. All right, here's a fun one. So I had pretty much given up, and then Brian Cunny had an idea, which was wrong, but did lead us to work on an idea that was correct. So systemd resolved under Noble and Bosch DNS. The way systemd resolved works meant that we could not easily get Bosch DNS associated anywhere, but we did manage to figure out that. So in Jambian before Bosch DNS, what it does is it attaches an alias IP to the loopback interface, and that's where the 169.254.0.2 IP that Bosch DNS binds to lives. With this change, it instead binds to, it creates a virtual interface. So it makes a Bosch DNS interface of type dummy and puts the IP on there and binds to that. That allows systemd resolved to see that interface as a separate interface, see that it has a DNS server, and so when it gets a DNS query, it parallelizes it across all 3. So Bosch DNS is always guaranteed to receive DNS queries. As part of sort of probably what will end up being the Noble config, you have to disable recursors because there's no sense in having Bosch DNS recurse, and all the other interfaces are also talking to those same DNS servers most likely. So it's just double work, and we're going to be slightly slower probably than systemd resolve, which is talking to them directly. So disabling the recursors, telling it not to override the name servers, that's basically the resolve comp functionality, and then turning that on. The other change that Brian and I did was we made it so that the domain section, so CTL, no, that adds the DNS server. There's a little binary that runs that, there it is, I guess, that updates the domain section of systemd resolved, so that the Bosch DNS interface is only responsible for .bosch or other domains that it knows about. And that's so that we don't, we've run into instances where there's users of Cloud Foundry where their DNS infrastructure is not great. So having that DNS infrastructure be inundated by a bunch of local Bosch DNS queries seems like it would be bad. So with this change, basically systemd resolved, if it sees a .bosch query, it will only go to Bosch DNS and not parallelize across all the other interfaces, which is good.
So we're making things better. That's insane.
It's crazy. It's crazy. Well, we're at least not making it worse by harassing people's DNS servers with before people's DNS servers didn't receive those queries. This would be a major uptick in DNS traffic because all Bosch DNS responses have a TTL of 0 because it's like this information is not good for any amount of time. So
Yeah.
all queries we
Okay,
need to
so
be
the
resolved.
disable recursor and the override name server. So those 3 settings, I need to put it in the in the stem cell
Runtime
configuration.
config. Well, that goes in the runtime config.
The runtime config of Bosch? No, right?
The runtime config for Bosch DNS. These are just Bosch DNS job properties. So in the Bosch DNS runtime config and Bosch deployment, which I think is where we keep the default one. Currently, it's going to have to be split up.
No, but you mentioned that we need to put this in the stem cell. I don't understand.
No, nothing needs to go in the stem cell.
So we don't need to configure anything for.
Did I say the word stem
systemd
cell in here?
resolved
Oh,
within
under
the
noble stem cells. Under noble stem cells. So like here, we can't have this because we need different job properties for noble. So we're gonna have to split out a different Bosch DNS job here that only targets noble that has those properties set.
Okay, like that. Okay.
Yeah,
Yes. Okay. Now I understand. Okay.
shouldn't be a huge deal. Probably. I don't know. Might break everything. All the
That's-
tests went really well once we got this config set up, whereas everything before this was just terrible. Like systemd resolve was just fighting against us.
So we don't have to do anything specific within the configuration of systemd resolved itself within the stem cell.
No, no. The adding of the control script.
Yeah, this will do some resolve CTL stuff.
Yeah, it makes a new link. Well, this is really the only, this and then the small binary that runs are the only two resolve CTL things. Just adding the interface makes systemd resolve generally find it. We have to configure the interface with the DNS servers. There's other ways of doing that, but this seemed like the cleanest one. Otherwise, we have to like drop a config file into resolve.conf and then restart resolve.conf, which didn't seem great when you could just call this one-liner to do it. And this persists across resolve.conf restarts. Doesn't persist across restarts, but if you restart, the script is going to be run again and you'll set everything up. I mean, the interface doesn't persist across restarts, so you need to rerun all of this every time the VM gets restarted, which shouldn't be very often, but yeah.
Yeah, okay. So yeah, and systemd networking itself, systemd resolve will probably never restart on a running VM. So
Right, and if it does, it's fine because this persists across systemd resolved restarts.
okay.
Yeah, it's only VM restarts that you have to worry about. This we also deleted as part of this because we were in here changing stuff and did not understand what it did at all. Because this is the only usage of it, and it just greps for the alias address rather than the address, but it never actually uses the alias address anywhere, which is weird. And the alias address was documented as some weird errors. There it is. Address that will be added by default, which it wasn't. It was never used as an input to anything. It was only used as part of a grep. So we just deleted that because we didn't understand what it was. It was added at some point and it didn't really make sense. It seems to be used under Windows. Probably. We didn't dig too deeply, but yeah.
If we break Windows again, then
Well, Windows is a totally separate job. So like it makes sense under the Windows job, but under the Linux job, it's like, what is this doing here?
yeah. Okay, this is nice. This is awesome progress, dude.
Yes, especially if you look at the issue where I was talking about this. There's a things are worse, things are worse. Oh wait, we fixed everything.
Yeah,
It was very close to like we shouldn't use systemd resolved at all.
I was already looking into how we can get resolve conf back into into Noble.
Yeah.
And does it have an impact on the use case where you resolve through both DNS, so a host name that you could query publicly and would give a result publicly? Because I've been using that quite extensively. I mean, masking locally some host names to get private IPs through both DNS.
So you're shadowing a real address and changing the response? Yes.
Yeah.
This will definitely systemd resolved doesn't have a good way of handling that. It might be possible for us to add that. Well, no, that probably won't work either. Because systemd resolved queries all the DNS servers in parallel, you have a chance of it getting a response from the public one first rather than from Bosch DNS. You'd think Bosch DNS would be faster, but like probably not something to try to guarantee. So that use case seems like it will potentially break for this.
That's yeah, that's quite.
I don't.
That's what's concerning.
When is this happening?
It's a very interesting feature that you can have split DNS or private DNS masking public names. I use it in my own clusters so that some queries are routed internally instead of going outside and coming back in again.
Right. I'm going to say that's probably not the
the
original intent
semantics-
of Bosch DNS
it-
though. Like you could like leverage it like that, but that was like never its intent was like do the local stuff. And then because of resolve conf, it was forced to like also like, and I'll send those queries off to the recursors. So like because it was in
Mm.
the middle, you could like force it to do this job, but it was never really designed to do that job. But I don't know. You could look at it as a way to make it do
Really?
that.
Because the semantics I've been understanding so far is that it first queries Bosch DNS, and then so that it may mask anything else, and then if it doesn't resolves, it queries other public servers
Right.
or external servers.
That's the way it was sort of forced to work before, because before we just had Etsy Resolve Conf, and the way Etsy Resolve Conf works is all those servers in there have to be able to answer anything. So like Bosch DNS couldn't be like, I only talk about like .bosch stuff. Like I only know about this stuff and I'm not going to answer any other questions. So because of that, like the system's at some point going to ask Bosch to resolve google.com. And like if it can't just say no, because no is an answer. No is inx domain. There's no like I don't know response in Bosch DNS. So Bosch DNS sort of was forced to build this behavior for proxying to the other recursors. So it would like read all the DNS servers from the system and be like, these are the ones I have to ask things I don't know about. And so it had to sort of be the sole DNS resolver locally, which is why it then like removed everything else. Well, that's why it put itself at the top of Resolve Conf, because conventionally everybody always asks the first one. So Bosch DNS sort of became the primary one, but its really only goal in life was to resolve the .bosch ones. If it didn't have to do that, it wouldn't have. So it added this whole recursion layer simply because it had to, because there's no other way to build Bosch DNS. Now, though, we're living in the systemd resolved world, and systemd resolved just like threw all of resolve conf out the window. So, I mean, the only way to keep the behavior, there's no way to keep the behavior you want under systemd resolved without, you could actually, if you did not disable, so you could leave this as false and leave these other ones the same. And then, but then you would still have to make sure that no other DNS servers are on the system, because Resolve Conf is going to fan it out to all the ones it sees in parallel. So you would have to configure the agent with an empty set of DNS servers, and you'd have to make sure that like so this is something I learned, is that the GCP CPI sets GCP VMs for DHCP. Even if you're giving it a manual network IP address, it's still configured for DHCP, so that GCP VM will get the 169.254 DNS on that interface via DHCP, because then that's a potential interface. So like for GCP, this wouldn't work because it's still going to find that 169.254 DNS server, and then systemd resolved is going to hit Bosch DNS and that. There might be a way to change the GCP to not do that, but like, so there's 2 to 3 sources of DNS server. There's the ones given by the agent. There's the ones found via DHCP, which you may be surprised when DHCP is used and when it's not. And then there are, Bosch DNS, which jams itself in somewhere. So to support your use case, you sort of need to make sure the other ones aren't in there, or the only other, there's basically no other way to do it with systemd resolved, because of the way it parallelizes all the queries across all the DNS servers. And basically its rules of operation are, I'm going to ask everybody, the first success that comes back is the response. Or if nobody has the success, everybody comes back with inx domain, then that's the response. So it's basically like first success, otherwise first non-error like cannot find response. So like there's potentially some way of making it work if DHCP is disabled, basically, but otherwise not without staying on Resolve Conf, which means not moving to systemd resolved, which means sort of staying in the past.
And DHCP is activated only on automatic networks.
No,
If I remember correctly.
GCP manual
No,
networks.
GCP.
Oh,
Okay, all right.
yeah, GCP
DHCP,
manual
sorry.
networking uses DHCP, which like thoroughly confused me for a half day. The only reason it does that is to discover the internal DNS address for GCP, so that it ends up on the interface and ends up flowing into the system that way. this seems like a crazy way of building it versus like the CPI could have just been like, and add 169254 to the agent when like passing down the env variables. They chose not to do that. Instead, like, let's enable DHCP. And I did not discover how the IP address is actually set, if they have to actually do something in GCP to like set the IP address for this VM so that DHCP works. Probably. I don't know. It seems crazy what's going on there. I don't know if other IISs have similar craziness with DHCP. My guess is no, but possible. And then
Yeah.
then it also depends upon if that DHCP is providing a DNS address or not. That might be something with GCPs. You might be able to configure the VM in GCP to be like, no, don't provide DNS via DHCP. I don't know. Could be something we could change in the CPI too, but
I think Azure does it the same thing.
with DHCP
Yeah, and I
and
think
providing it.
AWS as well. They all, so in the cloud, in the stem cell itself, we use all this cloud init stuff for the initial things, and well, Azure had a special agent running. I think they now changed it also to 90% of the code is now also to cloud init. But yeah, I think that's where the problem is coming from a bit.
The good news about Azure is they've never provided a DNS server, so they're almost certainly not providing that via DHCP. That's been a source of pain forever. Is like people running on Azure, they're like, I gotta let DNS traffic out to where? It's like, you can bring your own DNS server. I'm pretty sure. Like last I checked, they didn't provide one.
It's a security risk.
Like just run a DNS server, or maybe it's NTP. I forget. They don't run one of those two. And it's
I
very,
know, so the NTP service is not allowed in Azure because they have their own.
oh,
there's
that's
an
right. Their own
socket
system one. Yeah.
that they throw around on the network, which is really annoying.
Yeah.
Okay, thank you for all those details.
Yeah. It's a couple weeks of
But-
details.
But isn't there? I think if you can handle your issue with just some systemd the systemd resolved commands itself, then maybe you can figure that out with OSConf or something. I don't know if that works like that, but
That is
can
true.
ask.
No, yeah. You can just run I believe you can run
Resolve
systemd
CPL.
resolved commands
Yeah.
to remove DNS servers. So if you remove everything but the Bosch DNS server from all the interfaces, like it should win. So
Okay.
that's another option. Yeah, you could probably use
Yeah.
OSConf to change stuff.
With a small shim, it's possible, right?
Yeah.
Right. Okay, great.
And somehow this is passing all the tests, and now it's like, I guess I broke. Wait, does this ever Mac OS? That's weird. We're gonna ignore that for now.
That's probably just. We need to accept that.
This is good.
They changed it to 11. Now it's 17 because CredHub and UAA moved again. And
Well, so all the Bosch director pipelines are broken currently, and we've been working on that for 2 days now. So nobody else look at that. And that's because when we bumped to 11, our UAA stopped working because the Bosch integration tests have a UAA 3.5 in a bucket somewhere that it pulls down and runs. Now, UAA, you might notice, is above version 3.5. It's on version 77. So our integration test has been running against 3.5 for like 8 years or something.
nice. But at
Yes.
least it still works.
It does still work. I don't know how much value it's providing as far as integration testing. Like, why? So we're working on getting it to basically similar to in our Bosch integration Docker image, in the CPI images, we pull down Bosch and BPM from Bosch deployment. We pull down compiled version of those and use those. We're going to pull down a compiled version of UAA. So that one will generally be up to date, and we're going to install and use that one rather than the crazy stuff that we currently have in UAA service.rb to start UAA. It's not sane what we're doing because running UAA is hard still. So running the current way we run UAA is weird and hard and not at all like how UAA normally gets run. The new way is also bad because we're taking a BOSH release and we're basically like exploding it and being like, install the packages, render the templates with these properties, and then run UAA. So it's kind of weird. It'll probably end up being better, but it's still not good because there's not really a good solution to this problem, I don't think.
I know I made like for the UAA, made like a PR like 2 years ago that they need to handle how they are retrieving that because they are using a weird Java JDK that no one else is using, like a specific thing. And I told them like, please fix this. So, well, I even made a PR, but they never accepted this so that it would get that binary from the repo itself, and then that would use it as a test. Because now when you test it, it will use your local Java, which doesn't work. But yeah, random.
I'm going to merge this. However, because we're now getting UAA from the compiled package, we're using the Java from there also. So like we don't have any need for Java to be on this Docker image anymore. And we don't do anything with CredHub. So the fact that CredHub is using BOSH integration to run some sort of test is a little bit weird. So I don't know, we might rip the JDK out at some point. It was causing us problems yesterday because we didn't realize Java home was being set by somebody else. So we were using the wrong JDK and UAA was crashing, but I don't know. I'm just going to make a comment here. Ominous warnings. Oh, look at that. It's the one I wanted. All right, that's merged. Nothing on the agenda. Before I jump over to issues, anybody have any agenda items not written on the agenda? All right. Now I got to do -7 across months to figure out what we've talked about and what we haven't. 19th seems too old. 30th seems definitely within the range. Probably not those. This was the DRS rule stuff, yeah. Not sure why Chris got pinged on that, but sure. BOSH DNS and Noble support. Oh yeah, this was the saga. Oh, here's the end result, which is a good descriptor for what happens here. You don't. This actually isn't a great screenshot that I took, but you can see here's the global DNS servers. Those are added by the agent. Here is on GCP, Ethernet 2, which is configured by DHCP, gets the GCP one, and here's our new virtual interface where we've jammed BOSH DNS on there. So after you make a DNS query, you get another line in all these saying current DNS server. So if you have multiple in here for a given interface, they're not all used, which is what we tried doing originally. We're like, oh, we'll just put BOSH DNS up on the global one and everything will be great. But then sometimes 8.8 is the current one, and sometimes BOSH DNS is the current one. And so it handles them all in parallel, but only one per interface will it ever query. So that's why we had to sort of make a new interface.
So weird how they handle this.
Hmm.
But,
Yeah, especially because their docs are like, we query everything in parallel. I'm like, great. And it's like, no, there's a footnote to that. And here you can see
But you
that,
didn't-
what's
Because
that?
there's no configuration for querying those in serial way.
No, no. There's no way to make it not do things parallel. Which was like, yeah, some of the other options that we had is like, well, what if we just make it work more like how Etsy Resolve Conf worked? And there is a lot of seemingly ways to configure systemd resolved, and most of them do like nothing behaviorally. It's very small tweaks through a lot of different flags and things, but like its overall behavior is very not configurable. And you can see here that so these are the domains that it's going to query. If it gets one of these top level domains or subdomains, it's going to query those against Bosch DNS. So we discover both the internal ones and ones that are generated by Bosch DNS aliases. So that's good, because otherwise, well, I guess otherwise those would just go across all of them, which isn't a huge deal, but yeah.
So, but he can't like update his DNS domain for Linktree Bosch DNS, right?
That
If
is
he
true.
wants to
And
solve this.
that I think is already config that I think Bosch DNS actually already has that functionality. That's maybe a way of doing this, because yes, if it hits any of those top level domains, it will only query that against that interface. And I think
Or CFC console, yeah. So that would be.
these might automatically end up in there if you make these, but maybe not. But that's a change that we could make if that's true. Yeah, I
Yeah.
suspect. So if they are full domains and you're already configuring them this way, then that might actually just work, because those might end up in this list of things. So if not, we can fix that. That's probably the simplest way to do all this. I'm assuming this was last week. No, maybe not. Maybe I need to look at.
Okay, but we will have to update the documentation at some point, because I documented that this masking DNS thing with Bosch DNS was possible. So
Right.
yeah, with Noble,
Yeah.
yeah, we need to add a note at least.
Yeah, assuming this gets merged and works, there's documentation changes, and like all the tests for this are very unit testy. There's only really one, because there's not much functionality, because most of the behavior changes are in main, which is only integration tested. But right now the integration tests only run against Jammy. So it's like we're gonna have to add a whole different set of integration tests and then flags for running Jammy versus Noble. So it's gonna be a mess if it gets merged. I didn't want to do all that work up front if people had reservations or ideas.
Okay.
Guessing, I don't know, none of these have my name. I think I was running the meeting last week. No, that's 2 weeks ago. Added Noble.
Yeah,
Oh,
that's
right. These
only-
were all the things you were adding to the list.
Yeah, everything Noble is basically me, bitch. Oh, we moved to NF tables, so we could remove this.
Yeah.
Oh no, we can remove IP tables as we are moving to NF tables, but the problem is ours is because the agent currently is using IP tables. We are also going to switch to NF tables, but yeah, if we could remove that package, yes or no. That was just.
Do we have
Well,
NF tables in Jammy?
Yes. Well, no, yeah, NF tables also exist in Jammy, but.
I'm just wondering if the agent needs to be updated to have sort of an interface where it can use one or the other, or can we just move the agent over to use NF tables everywhere? Because the same version of the
No.
agent's used on both currently.
Yeah, we need a switch for that.
Dang.
Yay. Yeah, we have so many switches already, like
Yeah, about NF tables, the Bosch Lite CPI, the Warden CPI, is using IP tables quite extensively. Would that be compatible? running
yeah,
on
IP tables
normal
is
stem
still
cell?
there. The problem, the thing why we switched to NF tables is that we did a lot of C group things, where we wanted to specifically only for this C group is allowed to contact this C group, and yeah, and with IP
Yeah.
tables in C groups v2, it's like you cannot do it. It's like
Okay.
And
right.
the rules would get super complicated. So I mean, NF tables is just super simple.
and
Well,
if we
Yeah.
remove
Right.
if we remove IP tables from the base set of packages, we could either add it back for a stage just for the Warden stem cell, or update this. Ideally, update the CPI to use NF tables, but you know, the Band-Aid fix is just put IP tables
and I
back
also
on.
don't know if NF tables still uses IP tables.
Oh, might be a
as
Bennett package. Yeah,
package. So it was just a suggestion and nothing.
yeah.
It tends to be a one-way translation. IP tables get translated to NF tables, but the reverse is not possible anymore, to my understanding.
I think NF tables is its own separate entity because it's the next generation IP table.
Mhm.
But maybe it needs some libraries from it, so it's maybe not. I can look it up. It's something to worry about in a few months or something. I'm still working on getting the
Okay.
freaking batch test working, so which is really annoying to
yeah.
debug.
And as far as Warden CPI is concerned, the IP tables rules that it enforces would be translated to NF table, I think. So it would work in the end.
Yeah.
Mm.
Yeah, that's for this. That's the batch, and I'm now working on the batch part, but the agent is also still using SF commands.
Right. And Long has a draft PR here that he said doesn't work, and he doesn't have time to look at, but
the problem was the code was getting ugly because we were how to retrieve the service manager string from the agent JSON worked in the platform, but not in this job supervisor, or the other way
Yeah.
around.
Yeah.
Which-
One thing I talked to Long about was like just pulling this out into a sort of service manager object. And so you instead ask the service manager, hey, I want to kill Monet, rather than just jamming a string into and hoping that the other arguments are valid, which might be necessary. I don't know. I told him I would try to take a look at this tomorrow.
Yeah, so kill and start and stop work for systemctl. The only
Right.
thing that doesn't work, which is used in batch testing, is up and down.
Yeah.
And that's because there is a weird thing with runUnit, because if you do start, it will do a 7-second delay, or can do up to 7-second delay, same as with down. But with up and down, it doesn't do that. That's strange behavior with timeouts or something.
Differences
Yes.
are fun.
It's all code from 8 years ago, so I don't know why that was one was chosen for the other. So
I guess this is for contributions currently. Half the contributions are in flight. Yes. This was an issue that came up, which is that we just use the default NTP servers for everything. Whereas like AWS says you should use this one. That's I guess that's correct. That you should use this one and nothing else. And you know,
we set the NTP servers within the stem cells itself. So
right. And we just don't do anything right now. We're just like, the canonical ones are fine.
yeah.
And they are most of the time. Sometimes people like set up firewalls to block all traffic, and then like, hey, why is my time drifting? It's like, well, because you're blocking the NTP. Whereas if we're using the IA specific ones, probably they wouldn't get blocked. And yeah,
Makes sense. We
Yeah.
can. It's an easy fix. So
yeah, it's not the biggest change in the world. But probably also not something I'm going to get on anytime soon.
I will try to fix it in. I will try to add it in Noble as well.
Yeah,
Just give it the Noble tag, so I can.
yeah. That's not further down. Just kidding, I lost it. There it is. Oh, it's on the
Labels.
wish list.
Yeah,
what
and
you
you
mean
can
by the
always put
tag?
the label on it for Noble.
Label.
Yeah, just click out.
Figured it out. All right. Anybody have anything else?
I have nothing else.
All right. Thanks for coming, everybody. See
I
you
can
next week.
I can
Yeah,
complain
I
for
just-
an hour or two.
Just one small thing.
Uh-huh.
Do we? Is Broadcom presenting anything at the CF Day, 15th of May in New York? In the end?
Yeah, I don't know if
For
officially.
Bosch, I mean.
Long
There's
was
some-
preparing a thing.
Who was?
Long was doing. He was
Okay.
preparing for a presentation. But,
Yeah, there's several people going.
Mm.
I think at least Long. I don't know if Brian Kenny's giving a talk. They might be giving one together. I don't know. There's some talks happening. I couldn't tell you what they're about though.
Okay, fine. And I'll be having one, a short one, about authoring Bosch releases.
And when is that?
The pitches. I haven't checked. I don't know if the schedule has. I haven't checked the schedule.
1 week, 5 days. May 15th.
Wait, yeah, it's May 15th.
You're going to New York?
Yeah.
Okay, have fun.
All right.
Okay, guys.
Thanks everybody.
Yeah.
Have a
See
good
you
one.
later.
Thanks. Bye.
Bye.